Hello, I'm May Mangan and I wrote Me and Mine, which is the memoir of a London Irish family. Both my mum and dad were born into families of 13 and they left Ireland on a sale or starve choice. There was nothing for them over there, so they were forced to come to London. They lived very close to one another, and I actually never remember being alone as a child. I was always surrounded by aunts, uncles, cousins, their husbands, and they were foreign, but foreign in a way that nobody really understood because they looked the same and they spoke the same language, but everything they did was different. They worked differently, they worshipped differently, they even ate differently. And growing up, I had a very strong feeling that I didn't really belong. I belonged to them, but not to London or to England. We were poor. I mean, there's no getting away from that. We lived in a council house that was teeming with people, but it was hardship, but it was hardship ha-ha, if you like, because this is no misery memoir. They had a lot of spirit and they had a real strong sense of survival. If they worked hard enough, it was all going to be okay. And they were one of the few sets of immigrants, I think, the Irish, who when they came here, even though they were living in slums, they were actually better off. They had flushing toilet, even though they shared it with maybe 20 other people. They had gas, they had electricity. These were things that they didn't have at home. And they were sharing. When my parents left home, they were sharing, 10 of them in my dad's house were sharing one bed, which sounds crazy, but it was a 2-bedroom house, that's all they had. So they had a spirit that was very hard to crush, and they were sharing people. They knew that everything they had belonged to everybody else. And they had a massive sense of good humour. And I don't mean funny, they were very, very funny, but they were good-humoured about everything. They weren't ratty, they weren't selfish, they were just up for it all the time. And growing up around that was a very bright way to grow up. Really sadly, the women especially were just blighted by the disease, which went on into my generation. My sister and I both had cancer in our 30s as well, and that's a sort of it's horrible, it's difficult, but it gives you a zest for life afterwards if you're very lucky and you survive it. And every minute is precious, and I think we had opportunities that they didn't. So that's why we're so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad to be able to tell their story. One of the few times my mum got into a major huff when I was growing up is when I wasn't chosen to be the May Queen. The May Queen is a beauty pageant with prayers that the Catholics do. And when somebody else in the parish was chosen, not me, my mum went into a fury with the Vatican that lasted nearly 3 decades, actually. In fact, she was ever hopeful that her grandchildren would possibly gain the accolade of being May Queen, even her grandson. She was that desperate. But and what happened on the day was, to add insult to injury, was that my sister was chosen to be a handmaiden, and my mother, who was a Vaseline addict, had put Vaseline all over my sister's face because she had a head cold. Yeah, I know. So my sister was told by the nun in charge to walk down the aisle, tossing, kissing, and wrong order, sorry, kiss, toss, throw the petals in the path of the oncoming May Queen. But sadly, because she had a sticky face with Vaseline, all the petals stuck to her face. And she got to the top of the altar and turned around and burst into tears. So that added further embarrassment and distress to my mother, who thought we should be the May Queen anyway. So that was a debacle that she never quite got over. And probably one of the only times, she never showed it, but one of the only times that she wasn't pleased and proud of us. I always wanted to be a writer, and a lot of things got in my way. Cancer, children, caring, responsibilities, and at first they felt like excuses, but then I had a moment when I was 48, it was now or never. So that's why I started writing this book then, and I got a book deal. And I just want to tell all people out there who are aspiring writers, and I know there are a lot of you, that when it happens it feels better than you can ever imagine it will. So good luck to you. Because so many people died young in my family, I was actually the eldest woman in the family when I was only 39. So we celebrate without grandparents, without aunts, without uncles, which is really sad for my children. And I want this book to capture their memory while it's still very strong in my mind. My children met them, but their children won't. So I want to capture their spirits and pass it on to the next generation. And I hope they'll do that too, because these people were too important, their qualities were too important and too special to miss out on.